All right, hi everybody. Today we're going to be working on the second part of writing fractions as decimals. So hopefully you've gone back and watched the first part video so that you have the basics. Now we're going to go ahead and go into part 2. The first thing that I'd like you to do is go ahead and warm up by writing these 3 fractions down and then go ahead and write them as decimals. So pause the video, change them all to decimals, thinking of the ways that we did that in the last lesson, and then play the video to check your answers. Okay, let's go ahead and see how you did. So on this first problem here, I can make the denominator into a 100 by multiplying by 4. That's one of the tricks we talked about in the last lesson. So if I multiply the numerator by 4, I end up with 24 hundredths. And then to write that as a decimal, I have 0. Remember, the hundredths place is 2 numbers after the decimal point, so the 4 has to end up in the hundredths place. That means the 2 would go right in front of it, so 0.24. All right, next one, 2 elevenths. Now, I don't think I can think of anything to multiply 11 by in order to get 100, so for this problem, we're going to need to do some long division. So let's go ahead and set up our problem. We're going to do 2 divided by 11. 11 doesn't go into 2, so we put a 0 there. 11 does go into 20 one time though, so 20 minus 11 is 9. Bring down the 0. 11 goes into 98 times, and that's 88. And when we subtract, we get 2. Bring down another 0. 11 goes into 20 one time, and that's 11. When we subtract, we get 9. Now it's starting to look a little familiar. 11 goes into 98 times. So this is in fact a repeating decimal. It would continue to go on and on. We're not just going to stop there and write our answer as 0.1818 though. We do need to use a repeating bar. So our answer is going to be 0.18. We only need to list the 18 one time. And so then that's our answer, 0.18 with the bar over the 18. Okay, and then the last one, let's see how you did on the last one. The last one already has a 10 in the denominator, so that's kind of nice. We have -6 point, and then the tenths place is the first number after the decimal point. Since it's 9/10, that means we're going to go ahead and put a 9 in the tenths position. And there you have it. Nice job. All right, the next part of this lesson is taking fractions and decimals and listing them from least to greatest. The easiest way to do this would be to first put them all in the same form. So since we've been talking about changing fractions to decimals, let's go ahead and change our fractions to decimals, and then we'll list out all of the decimal equivalents, and then go back and list our original numbers in order from least to greatest. So if you're doing this on your paper, go ahead and write down our 3 fractions and decimals. And then we're going to start converting. So 8/9, we need to change that into a decimal. I can't think of anything that 9 can be multiplied by in order to get 100, so it looks like we're going to have to do a little bit of long division on this one. 8/9 would be 8 divided by 9. So we add our decimal point and our 0. 9 doesn't go into 8, but 9 goes into 80. 8 times, that's 72. And then we subtract and bring down a 0. Then 9 goes into 80. Oh, again, 8 times, and that's 72. So it looks like this is going to be a repeating decimal. Now, since we're going to be comparing place values when we're doing this part, we're actually not going to use a repeating bar, and let's just list them out with a bunch of numbers after. It's easier to compare decimals when you have more numbers listed. So 8/9 is really 0.88888888, on and on and on. 8/10, well, we know the tenths position, right? That's one number after the decimal point, so 0.8 would be for that one. And then lastly, it's already written as a decimal, so we're just going to expand it out a little bit so that we can compare more easily. All right, so now we're going to order the original numbers here. This is what's going to be put in order, not the decimal equivalents. So let's go ahead and look for the smallest decimal first. If I look in the tenths position, We have an 8, an 8, and an 8. That does not help us at all. So now we go to the hundredths. And it looks like we have an 8, a 0, and a 0. Well, just from that information, I know that this decimal is going to go last. So when I order my fractions and decimals, 8/9 will be listed last. Now we just need to compare the second two. So we're done with the first one. In the thousands place, I have a 0 and an 8. So which one is the smallest? That would be this one right here. So 8/10 should be listed first, followed by 0.80 repeating, and then 8/9. Okay, nice job. Okay, now it's your turn. Go ahead, write the problem down, change all of your fractions to decimals, and then compare the original numbers. So list the original numbers from least to greatest. Pause the video, work on this problem, and then when you're ready, press play to check your answer. Okay, let's see how you did. So on this first one, we already have a decimal written, so we can just leave that one alone. -3/11. We know there's going to be a negative sign. We do need to take 3 and divide by 11 to figure out what that is as a decimal. So let's see here, 11 into 30, that would go twice. 11 into 80, that would go 7 times. That's 77. 11 into 30, that would be 2 times. I'm starting to see a pattern here. Looks like another 7. Okay, so this is a repeating decimal, -0.27272727. Okay, and now we have -27, so I know there's going to be a negative sign, so I can put that in. Now I need to divide 2 by 7. So 7 goes into 2 0 times, but goes into 20 twice. That's 14. Bring down a 0. 7 goes into 68 times. That's 56. Bring down a 0. 7 goes into 40 5 times. That's 35. Bring down a 0. 7 goes into 50 7 times. Kind of running out of space here on the edge. 7 times, and that's 49. Now, it seems like this is just going to continue on. In order to compare these, we really don't need any more digits than that. So let's stop there. Let's put what we have, 2, 8, 5, 7. Now we're going to go through and look to see which is the smallest, the middle, and the largest. So let's start. Now keep in mind these are all negative numbers. So let's start with the tenths position. We have -2, -2, and -2. Those are all the same, so we're going to go on to the next. -9, -7, and -8. So just thinking about those three integers, which is the smallest, -9, -7, or -8? -9 is. So that means this one here is the smallest. So we're going to list -0 and 29 hundredths as the smallest. Now for the other two, -7 and -8, which is the next smallest? -8 is. So the next one we're going to list is -2/7. And then lastly, -3/11 is the largest. Okay, let's go ahead and practice a little more comparing. So I'd like you to go through and try these three problems. Remember, we talked about something called the hat trick, which is a way to compare fractions. So you can use that on the first one. You can also use the trick, the 10, 100, or 1000 trick. But I want to see that you can write all of these as decimals and then compare them instead of just guessing. So pause the video, go ahead and try the three problems, and then we'll check. Okay, here are the correct answers, and just a couple notes on the first one. We used the hat trick. Remember, that's when you take the denominator, multiply it up and diagonal. 7 times 5 is 35, and then 6 times 6 is 36, and then you can just compare those numbers. And so since 36 is greater than 35, then 6/7 is greater than 5/6. For the next problem, I had to take negative 4 3/8 and write it as a decimal first. So up here is my work for that. And then since it was a negative number, when you go to compare those, remember we're comparing negative 3 and negative 4. Since negative 4 is smaller, that's why the symbol is pointed in that direction. And then the last one, again, I have two decimals here. Negative 3 compared to negative 3, that's the same. Negative 3 compared to negative 3, that's the same. And then 0 compared to negative 3. 0 is larger, and so that's why our symbol goes in that direction. Great job today, everybody. Let me know if you have questions.